Great. So I'll present about the World Water Lab, which is a consortium of water labs across the world, empowering science of the emergent properties of water through collaboration. And I heard that you heard something from Maria Porto and about Jerry Pollack's work. So well, that's a little bit related to the emergent properties of water that I'm talking about. The purpose of the World Water Lab is to collectively lay a strong scientific foundation of emerging water science, to spread new ways to think about water, to develop and share new scientific methods across disciplines, to provide convincing evidence and high quality research, and to accelerate solutions and new applications using emergent properties of water, and to contribute to public or private fundamental and applied research projects, to build a living library that safekeeps historic and current water science scientific evidence, and to create more efficient and cost-effective research, and to help the paradigm shift from mechanistic to field view, which is we'll go into that in different presentations today. And this can only be done in a way that no individual lab can do on its own. So we really need to collaborate. This is really, I wanted to just say it in one sentence. So I will go into depth and why we do this in the next slide. So don't worry, I'm not going to read all my slides in this way. So who are we? We are an affiliation of individuals and organizations who are interested in advancing this type of science into the emergent properties of water. We are launched in 2021 by the World Water Community, which is a broader thing where a lot of people interested in water are joining. They can become a member. It's a platform. We share all kinds of events, water related, not only scientific events. It's but the World Water Lab is for scientists from different disciplines and backgrounds, as well as entrepreneurs, inventors, therapists, consumers, intuitives, artists, designers, indigenous people, communicators, educators, and more. So anybody who's interested in water and its applications. So how I mean, I said homeopathy because I know you have a little link to homeopathy. How do we meet? We meet at the edge of where we want to understand how water works, and the type of science that we are doing is similar. So we are not adding chemicals to the water, but we are changing the water. And the World Water Lab people are also coming from water vitalization techniques, such as vortexing or magnets, and we don't understand how it works scientifically or what kind of theories behind it. So we're studying water in that sense, and with different backgrounds, we can help each other discover more. And that's that's why we take the whole broader community as well, because a lot of times therapists can see or sense different things than scientists are daring to sense and learn about. So if we collaborate with all these different people, we can start to understand water further. So we investigate these unusual aspects of water, such as new phases of water, exclusion zone, you heard about it. Of course, water memory, structure, organization, coherence, water and consciousness, behavior of water adjacent to certain materials on nanoscale in confined spaces, ultra-high dilutions, homeopathy, and quantum electrodynamics, and other underlying theories and models. You will hear more about that later. Water vortexes and geometry-like treatments, water programming, storing, transmitting, and retrieving information in other ways than homeopathy. We do it with, some people do it with frequency. Water and subtle energy, water, sound, harmonics and frequencies, water and energy, water respiration. You might hear from Vladimir later. Water treatments like purification, vitalization, and energizing, and its applications to health, agriculture, and climate. So that's the most important, of course. Why are we doing it? To help build some new solutions to health and agriculture and other issues. Water crystallography, and anything water in life, nature, and space. Milestones, I'll go briefly into that because that's not so important for you, but we created the World Water Community platform. We launched it, initiated the first World Water Lab thing in 2021. We set up some structure, organizational structure, and the first course we created with Paolo Renati, which is online on our platform on quantum electrodynamics in condensed matter, is really suggested to look into that. That's on our platform as one of the first major things. We had our first online meeting in 2022, and then we launched a lot of other stuff. So far in 2023, we started to write a textbook that is maybe interesting for students in the future. It's a long process, also all volunteering. So we are taking the time. It needs to take some time. We had also a consultancy project for a company who wanted to measure certain aspects of their water treatment. So we are, we moved on in some ways. In 2024, we had another project funded of one of our scientists, in this case me. We're looking to fund another one soon. So that's a nice achievement, and we presented at certain meetings. And of course, with the GIRI, I don't know if Leoni told you about it, but there's another foundation. Yeah, okay. So we are collaborating with them as well. So why are we doing it? So it's really important to discuss and connect to further understand water, because most of us are individual and isolated scientists. We meet once a year at the water conference in the past, and then we are back home alone in our lab. And we need this unofficial knowledge exchange because we need to reflect on each other's work, and it just feels good to be supported and belong to a group. Otherwise, we can just move into our own space. So it's really that. And to use the enormous potential that we collectively have, because we need the people of different backgrounds and expertise, and not even only scientists who are interested in working in water, but also entrepreneurs and inventors, because they can share much based on their experience and investigations. And there are all kinds of people with a culture about water and healing, which can also generate interesting hypotheses that we can start to investigate. Of course, we need to cross the disciplines and skill sets, because water touches every conventional scientific discipline. That's why we need a multidisciplinary approach. And we cannot all get expertise in all these disciplines, and especially also not in all the skill sets we need to measure water, because sometimes you need to go from all kinds of different equipments to measure water, and then it's not like pressing a button and it works. Water is always more challenging to measure than you think. So collaboration is really key. And we need to help shift the paradigm from a mechanistic to field view. It's really important to go from reductionist boundaries to field view, and to move away from the sticks and balls, which Paolo will tell you later about. The sticks and balls is how we always say the O and the H. We have the chemical model of water, but there's the field view that is much more important, where finally you can start to explain much more that how things are interrelated and how some of these remedies can work. We need to share equipment and the expertise. I just already said it. Also because of the costs, not only about how to use the machine, but it's just a lot of work to learn how to use different type of equipment when you're studying all of a sudden near spectroscopy, or the next time HPLC, MS. It's just something that you need to share and work together with. And we need to share our contacts. What we realized is, if you're studying water and you want to generate a hypothesis and you want somebody else to measure something in another lab, there's not always labs that are interested to study this type of thing. So they're, okay, I don't want to invest time in that. But if you have some good contacts in universities who are willing to do that, that's very valuable. And to sidestep dead-end efforts, that means that if you are starting new in this field, you can make the same mistakes again. And if you are in a group of 30 scientists, such as we have, then we can think before we start, and that we can use our time and resources well. Also to replicate findings and to build a solid science, and to share protocols, same things. Also statistics, we can learn so much from each other after all the experience we have ourselves in each of our own labs. And we need to develop the new scientific methods that fit the nature of water. That's very important because most of our current scientific methods are often too limited. For example, if you isolate water, it's really not possible. And in a scientific setting, you sometimes say you want to isolate water and really only measure one thing. That's not the way we want to study water. And that's why also replicating is very difficult and it's a challenge. Life is dynamic and it's always interacting in relation to its environment. So everything changes continuously, and also the scientist even plays a role in the whole setup, which is actually super interesting, but it's a challenge that we need to tackle together to try to not get rid of stuff in the protocols, but to incorporate it into our scientific method. Yeah, it's really magical actually in some way, in my opinion. Measuring water in a cuvette is measuring something in its full potential, but you only probe it on one thing, and it reacts to what you question. But you need to take into account the whole, yeah, biological system and how the water interacts with that. So there's a lot of thinking around that, how to do that. I pressed next slide, but it's not working. Are you seeing the change? No. Hey.
Still the same.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe I should stop and try again. It's funny how it moves here, but not there.
Maybe you stop sharing and share again.
Again.
Just switch.
Yeah, okay. I'll just do not stop sharing, but I have to press the button again. Sorry, there's something wrong with PowerPoint. Okay, nice. Escape. My mouse is here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
You can
not
see everything
working.
in your screen.
Yeah, it's not working. I'll stop PowerPoint. Oh, I will go quick after this because then I'm not wasting your time. Save your presentations and restart PowerPoint. Nah.
No worries.
I cannot even quit it, so I'm going to Task Manager. Trying to find PowerPoint. It's not there. Not even visible. Oh. Okay. Well, my computer is not working.
Well, do you want to send me your presentation by mail and I can open here?
I'll try again. Yeah, okay, I'll try again. Maybe this works.
Okay.
Apparently it costs PowerPoint too much effort. But I'll it worked for a while, so I'll try again.
Yeah, what if you open it on the cloud as Google application?
Okay, I found it again. I'm opening it. Thank you. I'll try to work on this. Starting again. Okay, wait, I stop. I have to press the button before I do this to share screen again. I'm working with two screens, that's why it's extra. Okay, so back to Zoom. Show me Zoom. Then I can share the screen again. Share.
Not yet. Ah, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, and then I do this.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's back.
So, okay. Now, another thing, well, we were doing it to bridge between scientists, businesses, and consumers, because there's a lot of times the science is a little bit misused by businesses without understanding what it actually means. And that's why consumers sometimes, when, for example, water remedies or water devices are sold to treat agriculture or health issues, they can be misinformed about what actually is happening to the water. They can use for certain terms that their water is easy, hexagonal, whatever, and it's not always the right way to represent what they're doing. It's not doesn't mean that their product isn't right, but it's just better to make sure that they are using the right terms. And we can consult for testing and research projects to make sure that the research is done well. And of course, we want to educate and to create awareness about this type of water science, and even to learn about and educate ourselves, because we also don't always have time to read each other's paper and learn from each other's work. And to define new terms. It's a new field, and our field requires new terms, or sometimes terms are misused. So we need to at least start to build a solid glossary. Sometimes people use water structure, coherence, and they don't always know what it actually means. To share the overhead, increase the efficiency, and optimize the use of funds, and to collectively support and fund fundamental science, because a lot of times companies want to start some kind of science and they think they can solve the issue to understand water, but fundamental science really takes a lot more effort than that. So we need to work together with a group of scientists, and it needs to be public funded, not privately funded. We also try to safekeep and collect the knowledge of pioneering and water scientists, and to build a living library where we can actually start to review and comment and create discussions about the material that is available. Not everything is published in this field, so we really want to have the live stuff while it's being produced. And in this field, there's not many young scientists. So if you are ready and want to dive into this field, that would be great. We need some new people who are interested to study this, and we're trying to get that across. And only together we can set directions for future research. And of course, to address the opportunity, because water science has a lot of solutions, and I'm saying water science, but the applications that this type of water science brings is all these types of treatments that are not chemical, but do something to the water. They have effect on health, agriculture, energy, and industry, as well as climate. So we have a lot of possibilities to do that. That's why we are collaborating together. Okay, I'm skipping this. Well, we provide for everyone, and there's a lot of the benefits that I just mentioned. So you can see that that I already mentioned similar stuff. And also there are advantages for businesses and entrepreneurs. And I think this is not so much relevant for you at this moment, but it's all related to the quality of the science that we can offer. For students, you can find information on material. You can join our meetings. Perhaps you can find and develop a master's or PhD thesis on this type of research. If you want to join us, you can find 30 scientists working on this. And for the general public, you can start to discover this world of water science and learn about the different solutions on the market. This is one of our Zoom meetings, one of our first. You can see some familiar faces. And we now have 30 scientists. So here we just see a few. And we had 2 in-person, well, actually now 3 in-person workshops. You can also see Leoni in one of them and some other familiar faces. And yeah, we are keeping like a regular rhythm. Our next one will be online, unfortunately, but we will continue to gather, because if you have four days together, you learn a lot more. These are our scientific members, some of them, also similar names. 30 people have joined so far. There are 17 other people interested, but they're not publishing scientists. So we have the publishing scientist group and the people interested around it. And we have like regular meetings with all of them, sometimes more or sometimes less. And with a few, 8 of these people, we are trying to write a textbook, and we are meeting more often. And our common intent in general is to thrive, be respected and well-funded, while bringing forth discoveries and solutions related to water as a result of deeply understanding and living by the essence of water. And yeah, we all have a kind of connection to water. So if you want, and you have that too, you can become active. You can sign up to the World Water Community newsletter. And the World Water Community provides this platform with forums, groups, events, courses, listings, a market, and maps for all kinds of people interested in water. You might be like, okay, this is not all science, that is true. So you can also only just join the World Water Lab through a brief registration form. And as I said, our core values are very important, that we are open. In science, it's very important to be transparent and respectful, especially in this field. You need to be critical and self-critical. We are engaged and we are humble, because life is so much more than what we can measure. And we are in awe of the wonder of water, as we say. It's a real different field, and that's why you need to become, be in a trusted environment where you can share and learn and be able to make mistakes. Where you can find us, here there are some links to all the things I just mentioned. The background images are cymatics images. Maybe you've seen them. They're quite nice. That is water in a petri dish, a very tiny one with a certain frequency, and wonderful patterns are shown by John Stuart Reid. And yeah, that's it. I've kept it short, I hope. And I hope you know that water is the source and solution. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll stop the sharing. I hope that worked. Sorry. Well, I was short enough.
Thanks, Everine, for this overview. And it's good to hear you about how everything started with the World Water Lab, what's the meaning. If someone have a question, or please feel free. If you want to do the question by speaking, okay. Using the chat, okay, too. If you have any difficulty, you can do the question in Portuguese. We can translate and help each other. So there is no reason not to do questions. Só fiquem à vontade para as perguntas e podem usar o chat se quiser.
It's not much to question about this. It's no interesting science, I guess.
No.
But yeah, please feel free to join. It's all free. That's maybe interesting to know. We just want to help you be inspired by water science.
But just to start, Everine, do you think that the World Water Community has hardcore, that's the World Water Lab, but do you feel that it's an embryo of a scientific society, or it's scientific society, like the GRE, for example, or it's something to be a kind of central X organize the other community involved in this kind of research. But in other words, how about the future of Water Lab? What you have in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, we're discussing that with people, of course, in our group, if we need to become a official scientific society or to have our own journal. We have had that too, but there's many things already there. Our future, I think, I mean, my vision is that it's an open and alive in whatever we create, like courses and discussions and gatherings, so that at least anybody around the world can find us. But perhaps our discussions are to create our own conference, to attract scientists, or to become a a real association or whatever. It could be required, but on the other hand, the whole point is to be free and available for everybody. Not only even people in universities that are affiliated in that way, because that's the limit of our group already. A lot of us are doing it individually. So our vision is, of course, to bring it into the universities as an educational system and an educational program like you are doing, and to bring it to people and students as a master course. But I think this is something we're still developing, what we feel as or what we need. And that's why we're discussing and gathering these things in these gatherings that we have bi-weekly or monthly. So I'm not saying how I foresee it. I foresaw it more open, so not as a strict society in the conventional sense, because that's the nature of water, but to achieve one of our goals, which is to become available in universities or for students so that they feel comfortable studying it as a more professional career. We might need to do that. We might need to go that route. If other people have an idea, I mean, that's where Vladimir, Igor, Paolo, Leoni, you are all in it. So it's something we decide and develop together if it's necessary.
Yeah. I think that there are two important points. It's important to say to the students this, because first is an initiative to gather researchers and at the same time to offer this knowledge to the whole society, to entrepreneurs, and to all people interested in water and related subjects. So it's quite different from a traditional scientific society, because in a traditional scientific society there is a group of scientists, as you said, close and close and close, and everything goes around the university environment. That's it, and it started since the beginning as an open structure without with a very precise organization. There's a hardcore of scientists, and the knowledge can be spread according to the needs of each person to the whole society. So this is beautiful, I think. Using internet platform, using technology to put all people together. So it's a very a good way to use this tool. And the other important thing, this is a proud of mine, is that I think that this is the first time we are introducing the World Water Lab in a graduate program. Is it right, Everine?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. And like the subject has been introduced before, of course, by Igor and Vladimir, but to really introduce the World Water Lab aspect to it, thank you for that, Leoni. Very
may I just
good.
say a few words? Well, first, I would like to remind that this year there will be a very important event, 85 years to Jerry Pollock, who is in fact the founder of all this movement, which started a little more than 20 years ago. And his jubilee will be held in Hungary in November, if I'm not mistaken. And here, when I was thinking to you, Leoni, and to Everine, it came to me that Jerry Pollock made a great contribution. He wrote at least 2 books. Now the 3rd one appeared, which are in the basement of all this what we are talking about. First was Cells, Gels, and Engines of Life. Second, the 4th phase of water, which we probably all of us will talk. And the 3rd, which appears now, is charge. And I have such probably a little strange idea. What is possible to do for World Water Lab to make these books free for students? They're rather expensive, in fact. And you see, if we want to make it science which develops, we should have textbooks. Mm-hmm. And these textbooks already exist, and they are written brilliantly. They are not just strict scientific books, but they are read like fiction books, in fact. And it's a problem that they are rather expensive. For example, I translated the book here into Russian, and its price is not for students. And I am also always, well, it's too expensive for students, you see. And I try to do my best to send the students at least some chapters in electronic form, and I'm not sure it's legal, but nevertheless, I try to do my best. So what if to think about this? You see, somehow to find the connection with the publishing house or with Jerry to make these books free, not only for not for professors, but for students at least.
Yeah, we can. It's a good idea. Definitely, we can ask. And for your information, Vladimir has also made a nice book with Konstantin Korotkov, which is also a very concise book in this whole area.
It is free, as a matter of fact. We made it free.
And that exactly. So I think also your book is very important because it gives a really good overview. And and next to that, we are trying to write a textbook that brings people into actually doing the science in a certain way. That's with the other group. I think, Vladimir, you know about it. And that there we definitely have the intention to make it very accessible for people, maybe, digital or at least cheap enough. But I think it's an option to suggest to Jerry. I think it's his decision. Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is the significance of mesoscopic structure of water for understanding other higher dilution effects. And I'll speak a little also about the possibilities to understand the origin of life concerning this. And there is some, this coherent domains theory that I think will be much more covered by Paolo's presentation. However, I will just make some few comments or just will introduce this to be more understandable. Sorry to see just how to proceed. Okay. So we know that in conventional view of matter and energy, we have 2 levels of water. Actually, one is the bulk water, substance that we know, that we drink, that we swim in, and so on. And then dispersed molecules. This is, let's say, this view of just the elements of water, which are seen in molecules with disordered Brownian movement like motion. And in this classical view, there is nothing between macroscopic level and this nanoscopic level on the right. And bulk water is perceived as based only on short-range intermolecular forces. Now, there is another view, so-called emergentist water science view of liquids that sees three basic levels of water, not only the two ones. So besides the bulk water, we all know, and molecular level, there is envisaged also a so-called mesoscopic or structured or ordered water level. And here it is also understood that long-range and long-lasting dynamically ordered structure came into the power, and that they are based on coherent oscillations that yield a stability to this ordered structure. So again, at this level, water is not seen as disorderly moving in a chaotic dance, as is seen or understood under the model of Brownian movement, but as something that is like a coherent dance. This phase is mostly unrecognized by the established physical chemistry, where only short-term clusters and short-range stable structures are acknowledged. But here we are speaking about stable water clusters or domains that are entangled with coherent electromagnetic field. Let's see further. So in this mesoscopic level of water, we have the field level of water, and this is all described in quantum field theory, quantum electrodynamics, that I believe Paolo will go much further into. This theory proposes long-range as well as long-lasting dynamically ordered water structures, dynamic water structures, that can carry molecular information. And this is important because we are trying to understand homeopathy, actually, and possibilities how life can spring one from these ordered water structures. Only by this level of water we may rationally explain homeopathy, otherwise it is seen really just a quackery. By working of ultra highly diluted substances and, as told, even the origin of life on Earth. The mesoscopic level of water is composed of various sorts of so-called water domains or clusters. Mesoscopic, long-range, long-lasting, dynamically ordered structure based on coherent oscillation of electronic states of water molecules that yield stability are important for this level, and we can see what are coherent oscillations. So it's our oscillation where all crests and troughs are on the same point, you know. So it is, for instance, characteristic for lasers and other synchronized waves. So if we have chaotic movements of whatever or oscillations, they are non-coherent, and then the troughs and the crests of the waves are not synchronized among themselves. But in this view, when we have these coherent domains in water, we have ensembles of water molecules that these ensembles span between 100 nanometers or even beyond to 1 micrometer, and they have already been photographed, that are called also nanoassociates in, let's say, mostly Russian literature. And here on the right, we have the symbolic representations of these coherent water domains, where water molecules are in a way entangled with coherent electromagnetic field. And their electronic states of these molecules are then coherently oscillating. These water domains or clusters can be seen as universally impressionable dynamic structures with memory. Professor Jerry Pollack was mentioned by Vladimir Voeikov, and he, let's say, discovered this so-called exclusion zone water, that this is a very thin layer of water bordering to hydrophilic surfaces, and it is called easy or exclusion zone water. And it may be understood as something that is ordered and that excludes other molecules. And it has different interesting properties that I'm sure will be covered by my successors in these presentations. And what I will tell is that in this, what is known from this exclusion zone water investigations, that it may adopt crystal-like properties. It is known that it's a strong water is prone to induction of long-range, long-lasting odor from this research of easy water. And this is a complete nonsense for a vast majority of contemporary natural scientists. Mesoscopic water is therefore a very impressionable agent, either from a hydrophilic surface, as known from this easy water research, or from different substances used in homeopathy and stemming from mother tincture, or even from the fields as known from the so-called electronic homeopathy, or even organisms when we can, let's say, draw or take the impression from the body. So what is the passage from the substance to mesoscopic water domains? We have here some mother tincture, then which has some molecular substance in it. There can be many molecules or only one molecules, and this molecule has its dynamic field structure, which can be seen or visualized as a vibrational envelope of this molecule. And this vibrational field are then studied by NMR, near-infrared, ultraviolet, Raman, terahertz spectroscopies. And these fields can belong to phonons, polarons, polaritons, and so on. So there are many different possibilities how to tackle this vibrational structure of molecules. So if we now see the passage from a substance to mesoscopic water domains and how this imprinting tackles homeopathy, we have 4 problems. The first problem is how to separate the field from its substance. So this is a challenge of separation and storage of molecular information. Then the second is the keeping the vibrational character of the field that was impressed or imprinted into water to be approximately the same, to maintain its characteristics. This is a challenge of fidelity. Then the next problem is how to store this molecular information of the mother tincture for longer time. This is a challenge of duration of the imprint. And then how to provoke the desired effect after application. This is a challenge of effectiveness. For if we speak about homeopathy, we are interested in certain effects on, let's say, people or animals or even ecosystems, if you know the work of Brazilian group. So if we come this now to the first problem, separation and storage, transference of the mother tincture molecule field via vigorous shaking and diluting or by electronic means, which is depicted here down. So if we limit now to the homeopathic mode of imprinting, we know that this information is transferred by very high dilution, which is the process is called potentization. And besides dilution, we have also vigorous shaking between these dilutions. And in this process, through this process, we imprint this information from the mother tincture to, let's say, even pure water that has no trace of these original molecules if it is diluted beyond Avogadro. We have another possibility, the so-called electronic homeopathic mode of imprinting, where the field of mother tincture is transferred via magnetic field or electromagnetic field and stored into the computer memory. This is so-called magnetic storage of the molecular information. And it is also known now from, let's say, 25 or even more years. It was first tried with Jacques Benveniste and then with Montagnier and so on. This is some literature that covers what I spoke about, just to see that this is what I spoke about is already published work. Now, if we go on to more detail, so here we see something like an entanglement or coupling through this potentization. So we begin with mother tincture, and then we dilute this mother tincture and, vigorously shake the dilutions. So in, let's say, distilled water. So at the end of this process, if we go on, we can even come to something that not even one molecule is left. It's so-called ultra high dilution level at around 24D or 12C if we begin with normal solution. And what we see is that during this process, we must somewhat couple this mother tincture molecular structures or this field to coherent domains of water that was offered by this distilled water into which mother tinctures and other dilutions were diluted, consecutively. Sorry. Okay. So further emerges a resonant coupling between the mother tincture molecular vibrations and coherent water domains, so some inductions perhaps. And we have now what we see now is the molecule with its envelope, vibrational envelope, and that was captured in a way by this molecular as coherent domains. In a way, then there is another phase, namely, if we begin with this, by higher dilution and shaking, we lose molecules and we maintain only coherent domains with imprints, vibrational imprints of, let's say, starting molecular information. So only coherent water domains maintains the vibrational field of mother tincture molecules. And then by even further vigorous shaking and dilutions of something that was even at this point without a trace of molecules. So why to go further from, let's say, 24D dilutions? We can envisage that even these molecular structures or supramolecular structures can further fall into pieces, but they still vibrate to the same original tune. And then we can see that they are in a way multiplied and regenerated while they maintain basically the same molecular tune. So this is achieved by a continuation of the appropriate field with simultaneous reduction or even complete loss of material counterpart as seen here, and then they can be multiplied so that we can understand why even further potencies that go beyond molecules have their sense, because we can still change somewhat, let's say, sharpen or whatever, these vibrations of molecular information. So first, we have the separation of molecular mother tincture from matter. We achieve a relative high density and continuation of the field, and then through further dilutions and shaking, modification of the field, sometimes in the direction of a higher impact if we go in ultra high dilution domain. So again, here are some articles that speak about this, what I present now, mainly by Tamar Yenon. Let's come now to the experimental validation of water domains. So the Russian team of Konovalov and Ryshkina tried to visualize, to see these structures I'm speaking about, and we see this, let's say, process. So starting with molecules that are still somewhat attached to coherent domains, when this field of coherent domains is already modified by this electromagnetic or whatever field of mother tincture molecules to the stage here on the right, where there are no molecules left, only this vibrating field of coherent domains that is still maintains this tune of original molecules. So this passage was also empirically observed through the dynamic laser light scattering method or atomic force microscopic imaging. This is presented here. So that this experiment started with, let's say, 10⁻⁶ dilution. And then, of course, the process went homeopathically through potentizing, through 10⁻⁷, 10⁻⁸, and 10⁻⁻10. Yeah. And what we saw here is that even here, where there is 10⁻⁻10 molar, let's say, dilution, we still clearly see such structures. And they were found and even named nano-associates as material carriers of biological effects of ultra-highly diluted solutions, and that they may work differently at different potencies. And these structures may span up to 400 nanometers. This was found here on the right. What is also interesting and found by several groups is that it seems that some external magnetic field is necessary for this process to go on, to go beyond certain border, which was found as 10⁻⁸ molar dilution. So if we begin with 10⁻⁷ molar structures, they would form even under permalloy shielding. So when no static magnetic field is there, is permitted to enter. But when this shield is there, there will be no formations of these structures of nano-associates, and separate experiments also showed that if these experiments are done under magnetic shielding, there were no effects of such dilutions, such potencies. So it seems that beyond, let's say, 10⁻⁸, we need some magnetic fields for these coherent domains to form, to capture information, to follow these oscillations. So it seems that coherent water domains that would still be there, of course, even without magnetic fields, but it seems that magnetic field is necessary and important for imprinting, process, so that this coherent domain would bring this information or would be impressed by it. Okay. So the whole path from molecules to physiological changes can be visualized as follows. So we have the mother tincture, whose information is stored, impressed and stored in water, in distilled water, into water which can bring only information with no molecule left from the mother tincture. And of course, they should be done in a way that this would be stabilized. And it seems that this shaking is very important for that. And such water may not be exposed to, let's say, direct sun or some strong magnets or strong sources of electromagnetic radiation and so on. And then there is an important step, namely such in homeopathy, in practical homeopathy, such solution is entered into our body. So these informed, coherent water domains enter into system of bodily fluids. Now, this is an important and interesting step because we have, let's say, on one side, something similar to just distilled water. On the other hand, we have a very, very complex bodily fluids full of different various molecules, from very simple to very complex ones, like even our saliva and then blood, for instance. But still, these two systems understand each other. This is interesting, you know, so that we can then see the change physiology through something resonance effect. It means that there is some mutual understanding between these ultra-high dilution imprints of molecular information stored in coherent water domains of distilled water and our bodily fluids, so its own coherent domains that are formed within saliva, for instance, but also around, you know, different molecules in the form of this easy water. This means that organisms' bodily fluids also possess mesoscopic water domains that base on complex quantum fields like particles of quasi-particles and possibly on still some unknown field. Second, that they may receive and understand this ultra-high diluted imprinted message from the mother tincture through all this process that was then resonating only in pure coherent water domains after entering this bodily fluids. So it means that this language, molecular language in a way, of what our body understands, you know, and what is imprinted into, let's say, our saliva and other bodily fluids still somewhat resonates, understand this molecule that was in mother tincture. You know, this is very interesting and important to understand all this transforming path, but that at the end, this message is still understood in the right way and provokes, let's say, similar reactions of the body that would be expected from understanding the nature of the mother tincture and its molecules. And this is done then through this resonating field in bodies, coherent domains, and because they are not aggressive molecules, but only some oscillating coherent water domains, it is done in a non-aggressive, non-invasive manner that mostly, and this is very interesting and important, mostly provoke only organisms' self-healing capacities. So what we see here is, in a way, we can understand similia similibus curantur principle of homeopathy, that these original molecules via oscillating field stored in coherent domains of water, and by entering our own body fluids, you know, they still resonate similar to this bodily, those mother tincture molecules. So holding the, let's say, the same or very similar message are provoking, challenging, body. I mean, on this level of, let's say, some coherent electromagnetic field, but it evidently, our bodily electromagnetic field understand this challenge, and our physiology connected with this coherent level field is then challenged to react to this, what would otherwise be the original molecules. So to the same message, it reacted, and by these reactions, our body is somewhat reminded, oops, this is what we must do against, and this is the similia similibus curantur principle. So we are challenged mostly by homeopathy to react in a non-invasive way. So by poisons, if they are in the mother tincture, like very poisonous snakes, poisons, they would not kill us, but they would challenge and remind our organism's physiology to react as if we were poisoned by these snakes. But because we are not, we are only, oops, our body is then somewhat awakened to this and find how to react to this non-invasive message. And the self-healing process begins. Okay, I think that I will finish this and perhaps about the origin of life next time.
Okay. This is the last slide, Igor?
Yes, I think this is, I have
Okay.
this, about the origin of life, but it's another theme. I tried now to focus more on this,
That's
how
right,
to understand homeopathy if we have not only this molecular process and potentization, but also organisms, on the other hand, with all its very, very complicated biochemistry. You would never think, for instance, to dissolve your homeopathic remedy into something like the saliva or blood, it's so complex, it would get confused. Even if I remember that Hahnemann, I think he dissolved and potentized his remedies in some alcohol like beverage, or I think you know this much better than me. Okay, so we can have something like that, but this is alcohol. I wouldn't go into this alcohol problem, which is interesting very much, because ordinarily, these homeopathic remedies are not given as or stored in only water, but for the storage, alcohol is also important. And I think, Paola, this is maybe some challenge for you, that different coherent domains are important, of different sizes or so, different clusterings and so on. So where is the percentage of water and alcohol are different to store such information at least for 1 year. Okay, and by this I would finish my presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Igor. Very, very didactic as always. Very, very clear with very good diagrams, very easy to understand. So now I'd like to open the discussion, a small discussion from the students, just some question and answers. or comments from the other colleagues. Vladimir, do you want to say something?
Yes, still, Igor, can you say just a few words about your ideas on origin of life? As a matter of fact, I do not like this this notion, origin of life, origin of living systems. Life
Okay,
is
I will.
such a general notion as space, time, energy, and so on. So we are talking about origin of living system. What's your ideas about this?
Let's see, what are my ideas? My ideas.
Just few words.
As follows. I have this. So this is that we have at first dynamically altered water stage. Do you see this? Yeah. Like Naphion or some colloid structures, you know, much more structured, organized. So we can have very, very complex systems from, let's say, not very complex molecular systems, you know, but they can be organized through these coherent domains, let's say, very much. It was found also by certain ceramics and so on. We did some experiments, very, very interesting, but I don't have time to go into this. Actually, we were capable of creating, if you believe or not, living beings from certain special ceramics from abiotic origins. And this was repeated in not only in our lab, but also in the lab of our colleague, who was a doctor of microbiology and works at the Agriculture Institute, and knows very well how to do all this work of microbiology in under sterile condition, completely sterile. And at the same time, we and she got, and not only once, this was repeated, certain bacteria from completely sterile conditions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, but we think that this was not a miracle, you know. It was something that can start very, very, very quickly, actually, if you have enough organized system, but it can be understood that first it was done on the gel, you know. So this is something like a gel. The very, very sophisticatedly ordered water, and then you get some cellular conservate stage from this, you know, Oparin's theory. It was Russian, you know, like BION's nanobacteria, conservate macrospheres. So they may represent a large class of organized system. But all this, you know, can be done very, very quickly, not in billions of years or 100 or 200 millions of years, but in hours, you know, and then we can have biochemical stage leading to contemporary DNA-based life and so on. So this is an idea, you know, but behind all this is already very organized, sophisticated, on many levels, organized on coherent levels. Paolo can speak more about these levels of coherence, you know, coherency of coherent structure and so on, even in this water stage. So this is it. This is the main idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Your institute is called BION. BION.
Yes. Yes.
Do you
it
know
is following
the name?
following Craig. Yeah.
You know that
yeah.
this is the name of what Wilhelm Reich discovered in 1944. Exactly the same.
Yes,
but now we have an explanation of his discovery. And as a matter of fact, I remember I found some papers of, if I'm not mistaken, Venezuelan or Brazilian or Mexican psychologist who tried to repeat the experiments of Wilhelm Reich. And from sand, he received proteins and things like, but he was expelled from his university for this discovery.
Yeah, I understand this. Yeah.
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 You are in a private
I would be exposed
institute,
to it.
so
Yeah.
you'll not.
For this reason, we have the private institute, and we can
Yeah,
do whatever. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
And just another question, Igor, do you think that this approach contradicts the traditional idea of that life comes from random meetings of molecules, etc.?
Yes.
It's a kind of pre-organization. Yeah.
Exactly.
Completely. I think that this idea of random motion, that from which somewhat miraculously life sprang, perhaps in the whole universe with 200 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billions of suns and so on, but we are the lucky ones. It's not that. As I told you, it can be done much, much quicker. And to have this nanobacteria and something like organelles, it was found, I think, last year on, that there are organic complexes in intracellular that organize themselves. Nobody understands. They have no membrane, just working, know how to do the work, as if they are led by some intelligence, So I think that Brownian movement, that is the very, very strong paradigmatic feature of contemporary science, will sooner or later we should disband it from science. And no life can spring from just chaotic movements of anything. There should be some order, primordial order, into which these molecules would be then included or coupled to.
In fact, you mentioned about the Aparins works in 1930s. Yes. And
great work.
What is very interesting, they found a lot of very interesting things. The origin of this, how he called it, I forgot the name of these droplets. But they didn't mention water at all.
Conservates.
Conservates, yes. What is most interesting, they didn't mention water, though all these conservates couldn't originate unless they were not in water. And now, as a matter of fact, I'd like to tell students, and probably I tell my students, during the last years, the whole concept of solutions changes dramatically. There are no solutions as we studied them in physical chemistry. I mean by solutions the chaotically dispersed solutes or in solvent. So we think that when we have, for example, the solution of salt or sugar, molecules or ions are chaotically, randomly dispersed in this solvent. And we continue to study, to teach our students in such a way. Though it was at the beginning of the 21st century, it was discovered that when you have this solution of even sugar or glucose or alcohol, as a matter of fact, there appear things which are kind of coherent domains. And their dimensions are hundreds of nanometers. So these are the works of Sedlak, Slovenian first,
Sedlak,
and many other scientists. That there are no solutions as we study them. That always there is organization in aqueous and, well, in liquid systems, all the substances organize. So there is no disorganization. There is no ideal gas.
You you also say, Vladimir, that there are clouds in the water.
There are clouds,
That
yes.
are concentrated and less
Yes,
concentrated. So
there are just
yeah.
clouds. These are not crystals.
Mm.
We accustomed to look at crystals, but these are clouds, like clouds in the sky. It is not liquid water. They are clouds, and this is not water vapor. Also,
No, of course not.
Good image to. Yes, it's easier to understand seeing like clouds, not crystals, not vapor, but clouds. Nice. Yeah. And do you think that the universe is a huge coherence domain?
no, there's no doubt.
I mean, it is coherent with some incoherent spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, even in water, you have coherent domains and
It's
in between
moving,
incoherent phases. Yeah, okay, yeah.
But just when we look at the sky and we see these spiral galaxies, they are spiral. There is organization. There is order.
Yeah.
There are also theories, I think, again, with some Russian scientists, that even the so-called vacuum oscillations are ordered as like superfluid liquid.
Oh, that's Emilio del Giudicio.
Yeah, perhaps. But also some doctor of physicist, Zbitnev, for instance, Russian physicist.
Very nice. Okay, so
probably we'll talk about this a little later when we have the time for a debate here.
I'm sorry, I will have to go now.
Oh, I pity.
So in this case, Igor, just 1 minute, just to see if there is some students who would like to say something or to do some question. Okay, the chat, there's nothing. Raquel, teacher, I would like to do a question. Why molecular fields are able to provoke the self-healing process, and if there is some correlation between this and the sophisticated coherence domains, that there are direct relation between this fancy coherence domains and the self-healing of organisms. Igor,
I think that Paolo can, elaborate this more, but to be short, I think that the coherent domains are the property of water, of whatever water, so it's nothing special with homeopathic remedies that only they would have coherent water, this is the first thing. So if we have a certain temperature and water, let's say distilled water, it will have such and such percentage of coherent domains and between incoherent phases, It's actually two-phase water, it's coherent domains and incoherent spaces in between. What is important with, let's say, the self-healing or healing is that in homeopathic remedies, as we can understand, these coherent domains have certain, let's say, vibrational characteristics that are in tune or that resonate to these molecules that were in the mother tincture. So they have still this information, this message, in this vibrational mode, no more in the material form of a molecule. And then this is understood when we drink, for instance, or take drops, of homeopathic remedy. This is then understood by our physiology of our body. But first, this should enter our bodily fluids, saliva, if we drink this. And then it is somewhat transferred and transformed to the whole physiology of our body with the possibility of great reactions. We know there can be strong reactions to homeopathic remedies sometimes, and even more if they are more and more diluted and potentized. This means that we have less molecules or even no molecules with strong reactions, but this means that this information stored in coherent domains is somehow have some very strongly vibrating or something like that, you know. And by this, our body understands this and is shaken, you know, is challenged to have a strong reaction. Okay.
Just to go to do a continuation, if you allow, I would like to share a slide I presented in the last class. Maybe it could be explained better or explain a little bit more the question from Raquel. Do you remember this slide, Raquel? Wait, peraí, deixa eu puxar aqui. Sharing? No, I don't know. Wait. Oh, yeah. Do you remember this slide? Because it's a Paulo Bellavitti's study. And he tested different homeopathic potencies of Geosemium sempervirens. And here's a microarray technique. And here we have different potencies, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and 30 CH. And here there's a list of genes related to the working of these neurocytes kept in culture and single cell cultures. And we could see that there is different combinations of gene expressions or silent genes. And this combination is completely different from one potency to another. If you understand that each potency has a predominant or a main pattern of coherence domains, this pattern can influence the whole body, and each cell can answer with these different combinations of biochemical answer. If we are thinking about gene expression, for example, there are some genes that are expressed or silent. The enzymes could be the same thing, or working or not working. And a cytoskeleton can be more organized and more flexible. So every component of cell components in each organ, in each system, would answer according to this field that's created everywhere in the body. That's no, it's not that if the coherence domain is fancy or not, but which kind of coherence, which kind of pattern is predominant in each situation. That's I think that's maybe that's the convergence point between what we are talking about today and what we show it in the last classes.
A few words. You see, now there appears more and more data about the healing effects of different electromagnetic fields. And probably you know Ventura, what's his name? He's in Bologna University. Carlo Ventura, yes. He's in Bologna University, and he has a great experience in differentiation of stem cells into different, into cardiomyocytes, into fat cells, into hepatocytes, with different forms of electromagnetic fields. So again, and this is not in contradiction to homeopathy, because if we look at homeopathy not like not as a substance, not as a thing, but as a field, then we can, this field can be produced by different fields, specific fields, by very different means. So one approach doesn't exclude another approach and third approach. And I think that even when we're talking about allopathy, the problem of allopathy is that the fields may be, there are also fields, but they may be too strong and breaking down the normal coherence in the organism. From this, we have the side effects of allopathy. But it also helps because there are there are healing frequencies in allopathic drugs, but the side effects, the wrong frequencies which are there, they may counterbalance the positive effects. So that's why homeopathy is much more safe, I would say. I have an analogy. Well, you have a melody which is generated by single instrument and by the orchestra. There is a difference.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
only violin, or just also a lot of other instruments which just give you similar but different impression.
Yeah. Our coherence, the same coherence, the same phase, but
yes,
in different frequencies and tones, and yeah. But creating a melody, and yeah.
Well, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as Igor, I will also add only some new probably details to what I was talking about last year, because this is the problem which interests me and which I think is really very important, the role of water in bioenergetics. Well, first, Leoni asked me just to introduce myself, a few words, yes, I'll say. So I'm professor, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm professor of the Faculty of Biology, Moscow University, and I work at the Department of Bioorganic Chemistry, but I am a biophysicist with the emphasis on bio, also graduated from this Faculty of Biology. And so I'm more adherent to biology than to physics and to molecular biology. I like general biology more. And as a matter of fact, working all my life at the Faculty of Biology, only a couple of decades ago, I realized that biology, which is all based on water, is not considered at the Faculty of Biology at all, if not to talk about the Department of Ichthyology or Department of Hydrobiology, but there water is only the medium in which the animals which they study live. And when we're talking about so-called physical chemistry, chemical biology, biophysics, molecular biology, genetics, molecular genetics, and so on, practically you will not find water there. And I sometimes just emphasize such a thing, that when you take the classical textbook of biochemistry by Leninger, which is more than 1,000 pages, there are only 2% of these pages, or even less than 2% of these pages, are devoted to water, while water constitutes at least 70% of our mass, of our body, or sometimes, I'll talk a little more about this, more than 99% of all mass of the living system. So we just begin only to recognize the water, though more than 2,050 years ago, and 500 years ago, Thales of Milet said already that water is the principle of all things, that all things are created from water and all things return to water. So what was understood 500 years ago, we begin to realize practically several decades ago. Though all living systems are basically water systems, and living state is essentially transformation of energy into useful work. So when we are talking about life, we are talking about energy. When we are talking about living things, we are talking about water aqueous systems. And my lecture will be just devoted to unification of two things, energy and living state. You see, again, we are standing, as they say, on the shoulders of heroes, of titans of science. And one of such heroes, one of such titans, was the Hungarian and American great scientist, one of the founders of the modern biochemistry, Albert Szent-Györgyi, who was a Nobel Prize winner for the discovery of vitamin C. And Albert Szent-Györgyi, he is the author of the word bioenergetics, biology and energy. We should, when we are talking about bioenergetics, we should start from his definition of bioenergetics. Bioenergetics is the science of production, transformation, and use of energy for the implementation of vital activities. His book entitled Bioenergetics appeared very, very long ago, in 1956. And I would say that until now, we still, I mean, scientific community, biological community, still do not understand bioenergetics as the founder of this science, Albert Szent-Györgyi, defined it. So he designed few principles of bioenergetics. First, he said that vital activity or living activity is produced by two types of energy. By energy stored in the chemical bonds, which he designs as E in brackets, for example, in ATP molecule. And that is the only form of energy, practically, which we study and teach students in our science courses. But there is another type of energy, that is mobile energy of excitation of biological structures, which he designs as E with the star, also in brackets. And so in order to, the task of bioenergetics is to reveal the mechanism of energy transformation in living matter into mechanical, electrical, and chemical work, which is just the life work. So according to this, to Szent-Györgyi, this energy which is stored in chemical bonds, starting from lipids, starting from carbohydrates, then converting into ATP molecules and other so-called macroenergetics molecules, though they are not macroenergetics at all. But then this energy should be converted into mobile energy of excitation of biological structures. And then this energy of excitation of biological structures, it is transformed into work. Albert Szent-Györgyi just proclaimed this, how many? Already 70 years ago. And also he, on one side, he was talking about the energy transformation and conversion into work. On the other side, he was talking about the material foundation of this transformation of energy. And the material foundation for this conversion of energy, he saw in water. He was not the only one. There were very few Russian scientists, and also Gilbert Lin at that time, but at least less than a dozen of big scientists understood the importance of water in 1950s for living state. And he also said that water, together with structural elements of the cell, forms an invisible system providing its stable electronically excited state. So structural elements of the cell, which we study as proteins, polysaccharides, nucleic acids, lipids, and things like this, without water, they are not useful. They're simply chemicals. And in structured water, he was talking at that time already 70 years ago that water may be structured in living systems. In structured water, electronic excitation can exist for a surprisingly long time, which is extremely important for biological energy transfer. And that is, he also wrote in this book that bioenergetics is nothing else but the special aspect of water chemistry. So what did he mean by the excited state of matter? As a matter of fact, there was another scientist who dramatically disappeared in 1930s in Soviet Union, but great, one of the founders of also of bioenergetics and theoretical biology, Erwin Bauer. Sandieri didn't know about Erwin Bauer's work in 1957. And according to Bauer, and then according to Sandieri, one of the major sources of free energy needed for the performance of work, sustaining living state, is the excited non-equilibrium state of cellular molecular and supramolecular structures, aqueous structures, hydrated structures. In a sense, our living state is the state of excitation, collective excitation, like in laser, when our living matter resides in an excited state, and then it goes into ground state, releases energy, and this energy is transformed into electrical work, into mechanical work, into chemical work. So our living state is a state where structure of matter is an excited state, and it differs from structure of the same matter in the equilibrium ground state. So again, this is the major in living systems. This is the major property of water to support excited state of molecules which live in together with water. So what is the origin of electronic excitation in living matter? Electronic excitation may appear, in fact, only when the matter is pumped with high density energy, and high energy electrons or excited electron donors can be directly transferred to O2, allowing more direct use of their energy. So he again, Sandieri, he was talking that electrons from fuel, from carbohydrates and fats can not only go to the electron transport chain in mitochondria and then slide down this electron transport chain converting into ATP, but these electrons can directly can directly couple with oxygen. That was idea of Sandieri again in 1950s. And when oxygen is directly reduced by these electrons, and this reduction is neutralized by protons, then after appearance of such intermediate products like hydroxyl radical, hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl radical, hydrogen peroxide, superoxide radical, which are very short-living, then the products of this reaction are water, that's oxygen is reduced and something is oxidized by oxygen, and energy in the form of equivalent to light. Light in near infrared, light in visible part of the spectrum, and even in ultraviolet part of the spectrum. And the intermediate products of this reaction are reactive oxygen species. So this is, in fact, the burning, the classical burning as we know it. And what was the very brave, I would say, the suggestion of Sandierdi, that this burning may take place in living systems, converting the converting the substances into electronically excited state. In fact, even at that time, it was already discovered that the more intense life is, the stronger it shows its paramagnetic properties due to free radicals formed in these single electron redox processes. So these unpaired electrons or free radicals, these are nanomagnets. And the more radicals originate, the more paramagnetic is a living system. That was also discovered in 1950s and then completely forgotten, because these free radicals are very highly energetic particles, and they were considered to be the pathological particles, because if they do not go for production of useful work, then they degrade the biomolecules such as proteins, nucleic acids, and so on. And the emphasis of their was at that time, for many decades, reactive oxygen species were considered as the particles which cause practically all pathological states. And only in the last 15, well, at least 20 years, we begin to understand that without reactive oxygen species, life cannot exist. These species are the source of energy of electron excitation as it was envisaged by Albert Sandierdi. So, can water ensure the excited state of living matter, another state of living matter, not ground as it is considered by the contemporary biochemistry? And again, I just quote Sandierdi, that water forms an invisible system together with structural elements of the cell, providing a stable electronically excited state of the system. And in structured water, electron excitations can exist for a surprisingly long time, which is extremely important for biological energy transfer. And now let us just turn to real living systems, or I like to talk sometimes about extreme living systems. Sometimes they ask, is there living water? In fact, everybody knows, and some of us even had in our hands living water. For example, in a form of such a hydroid like jellyfish. Some jellyfishes, some species of jellyfishes consist of water on 99.9% by mass, and solids, which are which are only interested in, for example, bioorganic chemistry and molecular biology, is only 0.1% of these living systems. And they're really living, they're very excited. For example, this is the species of jellyfish or medusa, which is shining light. That means that there is tremendously intense energetic processes go in this living water. And only few people are surprised that such a pure water lives in much more dirty water. For example, seawater in which these jellyfishes live, they contains much more solids and much less water by mass. Nevertheless, water is dynamically structured in jellyfish due to its interactions with solids embedded in it. Water serving the source of energy, fueling vital functions. Water is responsible for integration of internal and external information and for organism reaction to it. So, though jellyfish should contain, of course, these particles, the biomolecules, in order to stay living, but it may be practically built only of water, not all practically, of water, and still water is alive, it is in this excited state. I said already, and I just repeated after Sangieri, rephrasing him, that water may be the source of electronic excitation, that water, in fact, may burn. Sangieri came to this conclusion himself, though if to look into the literature, it turns out that as far long ago as in 18th century, it was discovered that water is both the catalyst of burning and is also a fuel, that water may burn. And this discovery was was made by the British chemist Elizabeth Fulham, and published in a book which has a very long title, but it's an essay on combustion, essay about burning. In this book, she insisted that water is the necessary catalyst for combustion. For example, dry coal doesn't burn in dry air. According to Elizabeth, here's a citation from this very, very old book, that carbon attaches to oxygen of the water and forms carbonic acid, while the hydrogen of the water unites with oxygen of the air and forms a new quantity of water equal to that decomposed. Well, in order just not to think very long about this this phrase, I give here the scheme. For example, when carbon is oxidized, we know that carbon combines with oxygen, and we have a very simple reaction. Carbon plus oxygen is carbon dioxide. But according to Fulham, more than 200 years ago, she said that carbon is oxidized by oxygen, which it takes from water molecules. And somehow water molecules should be split for this. She didn't think about how it happens. And hydrogens, which are released from the split water molecules, they combine with oxygen and produce water in the quantity which was used for carbon oxidation. So in fact, carbon burning is not burning of carbon, it is water combustion. It is burning of water. Carbon is, of course, is oxidized, but water is also oxidized. So that is hydrogens of water which are oxidized, and it works as a catalyst. Water used and doesn't disappear; it returns back. It works as a catalyst. As a matter of fact, the catalysis was, as we know it, was discovered, or at least considered to be discovered 100 years later, at the end of the 19th century. So Elizabeth Fulham was discoverer not only of the very interesting process of water burning, but also of the catalyst. Now, more than 200 years later, already in the 21st century, it was shown that water is really a fuel, and that it can really burn. This discovery was made by the American inventor. He was not even a scientist; he was a radio technician, John Canzius. I will not don't have time to tell how this discovery was made, and he didn't. It was a side effect of his in other research. But he found that if you take seawater or salted water and puts this salted water near the generator of radio waves, and there is some spark, then this salted water under irradiation of radio waves from radio generator will start burning. And the temperature of this flame is more than 1,500 degrees. So it burns practically to the end, and only salt remains. So what burns? In fact, of course, it's not water which burns. It is hydrogen, which is released from water molecules and combines back with oxygen molecules. So here we have this so-called water burning. By the way, when we think about the logs which are burning, these also are not just cellulose which is burnt and so on. This is also mostly hydrogen of carbohydrates which is oxidized by oxygen. So it turns out that water which is used against burning, we know this very, very well. So we use water to extinguish flame, is the fuel itself. It also can burn. And why water is so special? Why can it extinguish flame, and why can it be a fuel? Because real water is never a homogeneous liquid, as it is written and as Igor told you in the previous lecture, residing in equilibrium with its environment. It is a multi-phase, complex dynamic system. So water, as we know it, water in a glass, of course, it is not equal to water which is in a living state in this jellyfish. These are two different waters which coexist with each other. The jellyfish may live in water like in a glass, and water like in a glass can produce water like a jellyfish, about which we were talking with Igor in the previous lecture. So one of the forms of which gives water this heterogeneity was discovered or rediscovered by Jerry Pollack, of which we were talking already. He discovered the exclusion water, so to say, or exclusion zone water, the new aggregate state of water abundant in nature. And this discovery is very, very clearly described in his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, which I think should become the necessary textbook for all those who are interested in nature, not only in living nature, but also in non-living nature, in atmosphere, in oceans, in rivers, and so on. So what was discovered by Pollack? He discovered that near the hydrophilic surfaces, this polyvinyl acetate gel, this gel is itself filled with water, and his surface of this gel is very well hydrated, that these near hydrophilic surfaces of this gel and practically all other hydrophilic surfaces, like the surface of quartz, like the surface of cells, like the surface of organelles, there originates the water which is structured. And about structured water, Igor already was telling you. So he has shown that if you immerse in water, which is nearby this gel, some indicators which we call microspheres. These indicators are very fast. There is a very fast processes of expelling these indicators from water which is nearby this surface. So water which hydrates the surface is very different from water in which these particles can be suspended. This water expels also from from itself not only microparticles, microspheres, but also macromolecules and also many low molecular weight molecules. So this water has different structure from water in which is a solvent for particles, for molecules, for ions. It has different structure which is reminiscent but not identical to structure of ice. And this water practically very important for all biology because if we look at any organism is the great collection of surfaces which are hydrophilic surfaces. Just imagine a cell which has a hydrophilic surface from outside, inside, which there is a lot of organelles in a cell which are also hydrated and so on. So cell is full with this water. So this discovery, or better to say rediscovery, because this was discovered or suggested by Gilbert Lynn in 1950s, and Sangiardi acknowledged this discovery. Then this discovery was made a little later by other scientists, but Pollock made this discovery organized and made other discoveries. So what is this fact, empirical fact, that water adjacent to hydrophilic surfaces, which is called, before it was called interfacial water, Pollock called it exclusion zone water because it excludes from itself the molecules and particles which cannot be dissolved in it. Is different from bulk water in majority of physical and chemical properties. And water hydrophilic surfaces, I said it, these are surfaces of minerals, of nanoparticles, most of them, biopolymer surfaces of cells and organelles. And this water is in contact always with bulk water. This is the chaotized water. So any aqueous system consists of two forms of water: interfacial or exclusion zone water and bulk water, that is chaotic water, like water most of water in a glass. And so this interfacial or easy water is the fourth phase state of water: liquid crystalline, quasi-polymeric, and coherent water. Bulk water is ordinary quasi-chaotic water. So there are many different differences between this easy water and bulk water. And I'll just only dwell on most important properties of interfacial water. What are these properties? That electrons in interfacial water are in an excited state, and slight impulses can make them free. So when we were talking about electronic excitation, in a sense, this is already the state of electronic excitation. Easy water is an electronically excited state. And second very important discovery made by Pollock is that radiation, especially light in the infrared part of the spectrum or ambient warmth, increases electron donating capacity of interfacial water. So the appearance of this battery, negatively charged battery, this is the easy water, and the acceptor of these electrons or positively charged water, this is bulk water. They originate this charge separation originate due to the excess of external energy, which is energy of light and especially of infrared light. So the difference potential difference between interfacial water, which is, well, here it's written here minus, and bulk water, which is plus, may reach as large, may become as large as 0.15 volts or 150 millivolts. As a matter of fact, from this water now there are patents which allow to the extract energy or electricity from this just usual water which is in a hydrophilic vessel. Now, how it was discovered? If you take a hydrophilic gel nearby which this easy water originates, and put electrodes, microelectrodes into the easy water and another electrode into bulk water, then there is the electrical current, though well, small current, but which can continuously flow from this water to this water. And there is, using voltmeter, you can see the potential difference between these two waters. So this current may flow for a very, very long period of time between these two waters. And as soon as this battery is just the source of energy, Pollock discovered a very interesting and very unusual, very unpredictable phenomenon. That if you take a tube made of hydrophilic material, for example, hydrophilic polymer, and you put this test tube on the bottom of some vessel, well, the common sense will tell you that nothing will happen, that water in this tube and water in outside, they will be still because they should be in equilibrium with the environment. But what was discovered, that when this hydrophilic tube is put on the bottom of the vessel, the continuous flow of water starts through this tube, and it flows and flows and flows for many, many hours. So this discovery was first rejected completely by scientists, and several years ago it was published in Science, in one of the major scientific journal, Science. So through a hydrophilic tube placed in water, water can flow almost indefinitely without the influence of external force. This is the first indication, that was the first indication, that water is itself a source of energy in an organized system. And also Pollock and some other people, they have shown that part of our flow of blood through our vessels is supported not by pressure of heart and the pressure of muscles and so on. It is supported by the properties of water. One may stop heart, one may switch off the respiration, oxygen respiration, and water will for a long time will continue to flow through, not water, blood will flow through vessels for a very long period of time due to this excess of energy in this organized water system. Now, there is another, so water may serve a source of another energy of electronic excitation. So I will just remind you of what I was telling a little before, that interfacial or easy water has reducing properties. That means it is a source of electrons. And as being a reducer, it may burn. That means that it can give these electrons to oxygen. Burning produces free energy and can produce chemical work or work of transport and things like this. So this water may be source of electrons, and these electrons can go to oxygen. Oxygen will be reduced to this with these electrons, and the product of this burning reaction is again water. Water is a fuel, and water is the product of burning. But energy will be released. When you have burning, you always get high density energy. And the intermediate products of this burning of water are reactive oxygen species. They are very high density energy is released when these reactive oxygen species recombine with each other. As a matter of fact, there is a question: how much this reactive oxygen species can originate from respiration? Respiration is oxygen consumption. We are living systems. We can consist of water, and we can consume this oxygen, which can burn our water. The recent experimental data shows that usually not less than 20% of oxygen which we consume is transformed into reactive oxygen species, which immediately disappear, converting to water. And in a state of excitation, when we are very excited, when we produce a very intensive work, this production of reactive oxygen species may reach 90% from all oxygen which we consume. But as soon as the stationary state of reactive oxygen species in the organism is few micromoles or even femtomoles, that means as they are produced and they immediately degraded, producing this energy of electronic excitation. So water is burnt, is converted into another water, bulk water. When one can say that when all this easy water is burnt, then the process should stop. So water is burnt and it transformed into bulk water, which is a ground state of water. But so when structured water burning takes place, then quantity of structured water becomes less and less, and quantity of the product of its burning, unstructured water, increases and increases. And so when fuel is consumed, there is no burning. But this second discovery of Pollock, that infrared radiation or warmth is the energy which is always with us, which is always in the environment, is needed for conversion this bulk water back to easy water, makes this process like a perpetuum mobile. This is, of course, not perpetuum mobile, but this is the process of conversion of external energy, warmth, into energy, free energy of excitation, which can be used for production of different forms of useful work. So this property of water allows to restore initial high free energy, rich state of an aqueous system. We use water and we gain water. We use organized water, and we, from non-organized water, build back organized water. So, in fact, this property of aqueous system probably determines the specific features of potentized aqueous solutions used for preparation of ultra-high diluted active preparations. I will not go into details. We already discussed a lot about this with Igor. But a lot of data accumulated, providing data accumulated, says that dynamization, succussion, agitation of aqueous systems results in water splitting, originating of reactive oxygen species in it, and generation of energy of electronic excitation in the course of their elimination. So aqueous systems may reside in this excited state very, very long time. Under normal condition, this process goes, but if you agitate these aqueous systems, you get more and more this easy water, you get more and more reactive oxygen species, and you get more and more intensive excited state of living matter. And this excited state of living matter is the source of these fields of which we are talking in the previous lecture. So how water converts into, easy water converts into bulk water. There may be mechanical agitation of this water, but there may be chemical catalysts of easy water burning. And we just found that bicarbonate present in water, and bicarbonate is present in all waters practically with which we are dealing. Well, so waters in living organism always contain bicarbonate because bicarbonate is the product of oxidation, of respiration. So it is a catalyst of water oxidation. So indeed, that bicarbonate is very much needed for respiration, for oxidation, and also for oxidation of water. It was discovered also more than 100 years ago. So it was discovered that carbon dioxide is necessary for aerobic respiration at the end of 19th century. At the level of the body, if there is not enough bicarbonate in our body, then oxygen will not help your respiration. In order to consume oxygen, you need to have enough bicarbonate in your body. And so it is at the cellular level and at the molecular level. So the bicarbonate solutions are always burning. As a matter of fact, all water, good water which are drinking, are all bicarbonate solutions. And in fact, we also have shown that bicarbonate support stable long-term water burning. If you take bicarbonate solutions, just like drinking water, mineral water, put them into hermetically closed vessel and add to this water a very, very small quantity of hydrogen peroxide in order to excite this bicarbonate solution. Then this water begin to burn, it begin to emit photons for many months, even in complete darkness. Here is one of the hundreds of experiments which we performed. This is, we measured photon emission. Of course, here is exaggeration. It doesn't shine so brightly as in this picture. In order to see photon emission from such a bicarbonate solution to which we added a very, very small quantity of hydrogen peroxide, you need to have a sensitive photon counters. And these photon counters show that when you prepare such a solution, then there is such a intensity of photon emission from this solution. Something is burning. But this intensity then increases and increases and increases. I'd like to draw your attention to the scale here. This is 1 month, another month, third month. So the whole this plot is more than 1 year. So for first days, the solution becomes more and more intensely burning. And then it continues on this intense burning for at least 2 months. Then something happens there, something originates there, its burning becomes low, but still after 1 year, it continues to burn visibly. We are, in fact, our organism and organism of all living things, living systems, is practically bicarbonate solutions, and our solutions, due to this property of water, is continuously burning, increasing electronic excitation of our living matter. And this excited state is very, as physicists know, is very sensitive to very, very low intensity external excitations. if they are in resonance with the frequencies for this electronic excitation of this system. And what we managed to show that, for example, we took such a solution which was continuously burning already for a couple of months. So here is the stationary state. These are circadian rhythms. These rhythms are daily rhythms of this burning, and this burning may continue, as you could see from the previous slide, for many months longer. But at this, we were happy to monitor this burning when there was a moon eclipse in Moscow. And it turns out that when moon eclipse starts in Moscow, in fact, not only in Moscow, on all Earth, but in Moscow it was full moon eclipse, then intensity of this burning, which was at a stationary level for several weeks and so on, dramatically increased when the eclipse starts exactly at the moment of start of the eclipse. Then it reached a level which was higher several times the original level, and of course eclipse ended here, but water stayed in an excited state for 2 days at least. And after these 2 days, 48 hours after eclipse stopped, then it dropped down to the original level, but still it was in a more excited state than before this eclipse. And I think that we know that the cosmophysical factors such as moon eclipse, moon phase, sun eclipses, the geomagnetic storms, and so on, they affect our state of our mood, state of health, and so on, especially in people with some problems. And here, water in a test tube, just the model of water in our organism, so dramatically reacts to these influences. I have no time to show you that it also reacts to addition of homeopathic remedies by change of its properties, like it was mentioned here, for example, highly diluted fullerene solutions influence the intensity of water burning in this test tube, and so on. But in fact, what is the major conclusions from what I've told you in this talk? I would like to summarize some unique properties of aqueous systems. Aqueous systems are capable of self-organization into holistic units. Igor Jerman was talking about this. So especially when you have surfaces, hydrophilic surfaces, then this self-organization is promoted much easier. So these aqueous systems may extract low-density energy of warmth, or scientifically talking, infrared radiation from the environment, and convert it into high-density free energy, making them charged systems. And being charged systems, they are capable to perform useful work. In fact, what is capable to perform useful work? Energy of excitation is converted to work according to the formula of Albert Szent-Györgyi, and this is bioenergetics. So aqueous systems, complex aqueous systems consisting of organized water and disorganized water, is already the basis of bioenergetics. So the intrinsic activity allocate them with the capacity to receive resonant signals from the environment and react to them. And they may solve the source of coherent photonic or phononic radiations. Being in an excited state, they not only absorb energy, absorb this weak energy, but they are also these sources. They can emit these photons, and we call this phenomenon biophotonics, which was discovered by first by Alexander Gurevich in the form of mitogenetic rays, and which was studied later on by Fritz Albert Popp, who called this photon emission from living system biophotons. And the source of these biophotons, basically, again, it is complex aqueous systems. So, aqueous systems ensure the mechanism of bioenergetics, energy transformation in living matter into mechanical, electrical, and chemical work suggested by Sangiardi. So the energy which is maybe conserved in such molecules ATP and other just molecules of other fuels and molecules also of water is converted into energy of electronic excitation and to water. And so I'd like to finish with the famous saying of Sangiardi. Water is life, matter and matrix, mother and medium. There is no life without water. So Sangiardi just repeated was what tales 2,500 years ago already proclaimed. So, obrigada pela atenção, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your attention.
Спасибо. Very nice, as always. Does someone would like to do some question? It's amazing how the reactive oxygen species can be seen in a different manner, because we are always trained to understand them as harmful radical species, free radicals, and etc. But they are source of energy too. So it's interesting to see different. You can see the different points of view of the same thing. It's interesting.
In fact, that is my personal major point, that this major source of high density energy, which makes living matter excited, are the reactions major source. It's not the only source, of course, because there is external radiation and just other forms of radiation, other sources of energy. But the energy of recombination of reactive oxygen species, which are produced at tremendous speed in living systems, in respiring systems, and eliminated at tremendous speed also. They cannot be but source of energy. If this energy would not convert into energy of useful work, then we will literally burn. Literally, and living systems sometimes burn. We know this. There are such very rare, fortunately, very rare phenomenon of self-burning. They exist, you see, when human beings, without any visible reasons, burn out. But this is a very, very rare and non-explained, though documented empirical phenomenon. But this conversion continuously goes on in our organism. It cannot go. And that's what I just insist continuously. So it's just not hypothesis. This is the fact, unrecognized fact, unfortunately.
It's the cycle of self-stimulation, self-excitations. It's behind everything. It's the most basic aspect of everything. Then the traditional biochemistry comes after this. It's a kind of
Yes.
background.
Yes, it cannot simply traditional biochemistry. It cannot last for a long time. You see, when I have when you isolate, when you break down cells, tissues, and convert them into well, surviving something, and begin to study biochemical reactions in vitro, they sooner or later, more often sooner than later, they decay, and it stops. You see, you study this some biochemical, and it decays, it stops. But living systems, they sustain, they do for billions of years. Life didn't disappear on Earth. When you break it down, then it stops for a very simple reason, because you break down the organization of this system. Yeah. And burning is stopped, and decay in the form of putrefaction continues, which is also needed very much.
Wow, very nice.
I also just wanted to add another very important point. When we're talking so here, oxygen is very much needed, yes, because when we're talking about reactive oxygen species, yeah, but again, in biological textbooks, it is written that oxygen appeared somewhere long after the anaerobic life was on Earth. It is hypothesis, and it turns out that it is a wrong hypothesis. Aerobic life appeared at the same time as anaerobic. 1 year ago, it was just made, it was such a paper in Nature, when people asked such a question: why concentration of oxygen at the bottom of oceans is high enough to support aerobic life there? There are fishes there, there are jellyfishes there, there are worms there, we know that there is life even at the depth of 10 kilometers. And it's enough oxygen there. The question was, where from? Because it was impossible to explain appearance of oxygen at the bottom of the ocean from atmosphere. And explanations were very silly, like fairy tale. Now it becomes more and more clear that there are processes very similar to electrolysis of water there. They are going on. About this, it was the paper in Nature. But we know now, long ago, though people don't believe it, that when we make succussion, just agitation of water, water structures break down into oxygen and hydrogen. And water is never still in principle. At the bottom of the ocean, or just in the middle of the ocean, or at the surface of the ocean. So oxygen in atmosphere and elsewhere appeared abiogenically. You don't need photosynthesis to get oxygen. You need water. If you have water, you don't need any photosynthesis. There will be oxygen and there will be water burning. And that's why I asked Igor about the origin of life, or better to say living systems. The only thing which you need for living system origination is liquid water, nothing more. No, of course, boundaries, vessels, and things like this, and minerals which just catalysts of water breaking down. If you have these conditions, and whenever you have liquid water, you will have some living state. Probably not as clever as we are, but probably even more clever. Nobody knows.
It makes sense because, of course, because non-aerobic glycolysis, it's an adaptation process.
Yes,
It's not the
anaerobic.
basic process, the adaptation. Yeah.
Yes,
The
yes.
adaptation to what? To the lack of oxygen.
Yeah, no, it's not well, yes, it is. So on one hand, it is adaptation to lack of oxygen, and yes, exactly. But it is now very well known, but not all microbiologists tell their students that there are no obligatively anaerobic microorganisms. Microorganisms which are called obligatively anaerobic, they all contain enzymes which are dealing with reactive oxygen species. Superoxide dismutases, catalases, and things like this. What for they need them? They have these genes and they have these enzymes. That means that they live in only under the conditions of very low oxygen levels. If to make these levels lower, then situation for then they may die. They, for example, if you just extract all oxygen for some time from environment where they live, they also die. In a sense, we are also anaerobic. If somebody puts us into 100% oxygen atmosphere, we shall not survive for a long time. Because in high concentration, oxygen is poison.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Very, very nice. So someone else would like to comment or to do some question? Pessoal, perguntas?
I'm afraid I told a lot of new things.
It's too much information at once, maybe. But okay, but many things to think about in the further days. Maybe Everine or Paulo would like to do some comments, or I don't know, general conclusion, or to close this morning session.
I could say that okay, I will try later to show how all the phenomenological dynamics that Vladimir showed can be only explainable in the coherent nature of at least one of the two phases of liquid water. If you wouldn't, if you hadn't coherence, you would be never able to split, for instance, the water molecules in oxygen and hydrogen with not so important amount of energy. This is the reason why the living system is so able to exploit actually water as a source of energy, interfacial water, easy water. Why? Because the electrons are easily givable, no, to the environment, because they live in a already high energy state that how could be explainable in the mainstream chemical physics. It would be never explainable, because if you want to make the first transition to the water molecules in order to shift the electron from the sp3 orbital to another one, you would need at least 10 electron volts. That is a huge amount of energy. I will try to give you roots explanation about how this kind of stable excited state can exist. Actually is stable, but is a dynamics, is not a static state.
Yes.
What we call excited state is actually a dynamics, like a river. No, you look at the river and you see the motion of water, but this is a dynamic, is not an object, and the living system is a process and not an object. And I think that anything that has been showed by Vladimir is, as always, super interesting and super meaningful, because this kind of phenomenology is just from the most simple, like to see that the water with salt burns if exposed to radio frequency, or to see that water with CO2 inside and a little amount of hydrogen peroxide is able to emit light. From this phenomena to other more complex, we have the striking empirical proofs that all the paradigm in spectroscopy, chemical physics, condensed matter physics has to change. And how must it be changed? It must be changed by, like Giuliano Preparata and Emilio Del Giudice taught to us, by shifting from a mechano-like and sticks and balls view of matter, where you consider molecules like object per se, in themselves, to a field view, when you see the matter that is a collectiveness of oscillators that necessarily, being a quantum object, are oscillating. So you cannot imagine anymore the molecules like two balls connected to another one, no? So I think that when we will go deep into the coherence emergence, a lot of things, like also the emergence of life from non-living system, the emergence of living system from non-living system will be very clear, because like Vladimir, and I conclude, told in the last comments, how a living system emerges, when a living system emerges. In fact, this is a very crucial question, in the sense that we are made of matter. Are we made of matter? Are we made of water? Of course, yes. But so the question is, where is the threshold when non-living matter becomes to show living dynamics, like maintaining a non-equilibrium thermodynamical state, ability to perform works, memory, teleology, morphogenesis, bioenergetics, self-organization. And we can go on up to conscious dynamics, no? Even. So where does the threshold appear? There is not a clear-cut threshold. The difference between non-living system and living system is something that is blurred, something that is a sort of emergence through complexity. We have from archaea, Vladimir, tell me if I'm wrong, from archaea, very simple, very limited ranges of coherence hierarchies, up to the Amazon forests that I consider as a whole living system, because we have a fractal conception of life. I'm perfectly agree with that, with Vladimir, because life is a network. It's not something. No? We have the web of life, like Fritjof Capra told, and the web of life is something that contemporaneously is made of living system and at the same time transcends them. Is something that moves through and thanks to the living system, and that drives their appearance. No? So what is happening? That from the simple bacterium, prokaryotic or whatever, to the much more complex living system, like a whale, or like a man or a forest, the only thing that is changing is the degree, the amplitude of the hierarchy of nested coherence, one inside another. The more this hierarchy is wide and the more complex is the system. And this is both an advantage for certain things. For instance, for homeostasis, stability. No? The more the coherence is wide, vast, and stable, of course, the more resilience the living system has. But at the same time, we also need of tiny organisms that have limited coherences, like bacteria, because they are able, for instance, within a few generations that occurs within 2 hours, to make adaptations and be able to face the changing of the environments with very quickly, very very easily. So the web of life is fantastic because we see how all these kind of creatures, kind of organisms are in an orchestra, in a symphony that plays different parts, different roles, all necessary to the merging of life and to the maintenance of life. That is, let's remind this, it is a thermodynamical necessity. In the sense, the living state of matter is something that is wanted by thermodynamical laws. And Vladimir hinted to this, because the coherent state of matter, like Erwin Simonovich Bauer told, despite being something that contains a content of stored energy, no? Free energy, is something that we will see in quantum field theory has a ground level, a vacuum level that is lower than the non-coherent matter. This difference that is called energy gap is the reason why living matter exists. That's very interesting. That's very nice. And we would make a lot of comments. Sorry for my length.
That's always interesting. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, I would like only to comment that you see the idea that there was no origin of life. It was probably first proclaimed by Vladimir Vernadsky, if you heard this name, the founder of biogeochemistry.
Exactly.
Because he said that empirically, we never observed appearance of living from non-living. We observed appearance of non-living from living. But what we know, that living appears only from living. That's what we know. The idea of Miller and Urey and just origination from by chance and things like this, these are fairy tales. Nobody has a word. If to consider that aqueous system is, you see, if you take any religion, start Christian, Buddhist,
start from an origin.
It starts from water.
Yeah.
It is water. By the way, I just paid attention that if in the Bible, in Genesis, water was not created. I'm not a religious person, but it's written in Bible that water was not created. It pre-existed. It was transformed by Holy Spirit, but it was not created. It was before everything.
That's very interesting. Just about the origin of life. In fact, it is a wrong expression.
Yeah.
There are also studies of now retired
origin of space. Can we talk about origin of space?
As
Can
well
we talk about origin of energy? Can we talk about origin of time?
In fact,
you see, of course we can talk.
Yes, we can talk, but it's just a talk. You're right. Just to mention, because it's interesting, I met some time ago some studies of a biochemist, now a retired professor from the University of Bologna. Maybe Vladimir, I will forward to you some of his own papers that claimed the thesis that he saw that actually the times that was needed to, for instance, molecules like RMN, RNA, the time was very short because once you have, for instance, he told about a key reagent that is the phosphoric anhydride in water, together with some simple molecules like the ammonia or the CO2 or the methane from atmosphere, you have the appearance of organic molecules very, very quickly. This is interesting. And the second point that you mentioned, also Igor did, is very interesting.
Yes, Igor told us how fast.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Something like 20 minutes. Once, like you told, once we have water, together with the suitable catalyst, the suitable surfaces, the suitable partners that are able to oscillate with its coherence.
Suitable elements.
Exactly, the suitable elements. Life starts, in the sense that the coherent dynamics that at a certain degree of complexity is callable life, is nameable life, is already starts. And the second point that is together with this one is the point of bions, of coacervates, of these are different words just to call the same things as Béchamp microzymas, as nascens somatids, as Enderlein protids. What are we speaking of? We are speaking of the first, maybe the most elementary system that is able to, let's say, to show some form of autopoiesis. That is the basic characteristics of life, because a living system, necessarily to be called as such, need to be reproduced, to be reproducible, to reproduce itself. Maybe not exactly identical. This is another myth, maybe, no, because we have adaptation each time that we have that an organism is facing certain circumstances in the environment. The successive generation will be, of course, a little different, no, in the sense because conserve the memory of the different thermodynamics couplings that he had to put in play to face, to cope with the environment. No? But just to say, I will try to show that once that water has the correct, the suitable elements, the suitable molecules that keep it in a collective resonance of the coherence domain that we can call supercoherence, we start to catalyze new chemical reactions that stimulated the creation of other substrates, let me call substrates, other molecules, more complex molecules that in turn constitute hydrophilic surfaces that call more water, interfacial water, to be built up and again, and until we can create a topological system that has a 2D aspect, that like sheets, like beta sheets, alpha, whatever, that can be, once that they close on themselves, create a very important phase transition, because the water inside, it will be never equal to the water outside, necessarily. And this is a condition that at least is not maybe sufficient, but for sure necessary to start something that we can call protobions, no? Oparin, Fox, coacervates, the bions of Reich. And this is very interesting also because, and I close, because this theme of this, let's call elementary proto-biological, let's say proto-biological particles, is really connected with another unorthodox, another heretical theme that in our medicine and biology has been cancelled: the pleomorphism, the possibility of cells not only to be reproducible through mitosis, but also through other pathways. For instance, like some in the lysogenic, for instance, in the lysogenic pathways of bacteria, it is possible. Bacteria that disgregates, that fragment themselves in spores, that usually medicine calls viruses or whatever, that is actually, they are not what we call, what we think, because a lot of researchers also declared that there is no way, no criterion to distinguish exosomes or extra cell vesicles from viruses, but just this is another important aspect. But they create spores, vesicles, and these vesicles, in suitable conditions, are able to coalesce, how to say in English, to make coalescence and reconstruct, rebuild a full organism like the bacterium. And I could show you some videos where you can see under the microscope, under the somatoscope that has been created by Gaston Nassens, you can see that you pass from a rod-like shape of, for instance, a certain kind of bacteria, to the yeast shape, to the globular shape of an for instance, of an erythrocytes, the red blood cells. When you make a dark field microscopy, you see that first of all, the blood is not sterile. And second, you can observe the dynamics of production of bions, of particles that flourish and thrive, and that get more and more and more complex and more bigger and bigger. I have the videos of these things. And so, just to close, the things that told that Igor and Vladimir showed are the very important pivots of for a complete refresh of the sciences of life.
So can we say that, just to finish, can you say that life is coherence?
Life is not only coherence. Life is a hierarchy of coherences. So it's a super coherent process necessary, because coherent also simple water, also simple liquid water as a part of that is coherent. We have life when we have a lot of overlapping of nested coherences that allows what? That allow the fact that this molecule, for instance, is not maybe coherent on a certain degree of freedom with the others, but is coherent on another. So just to make a refinement, the exclusion zone water is not water that is just more coherent in the sense that has the same coherence as the liquid water. Exclusion zone water is liquid water that already has a kind of coherence built on the oscillation of the dipole, to which another kind is added, the coherence among the rotation of the dipoles. So when you build also this other type of coherence domain over the others, you build another, of course, more stable, more viscous, less liquid phase of water. This is how the exclusion of water has the appearance of a gel, has the appearance of also showing the peculiarity, no? To be like the fact that is built up by the infrared, but it's also built up. That's why we need ultraviolet. It's also built up by ultraviolet radiation, because has a peak of absorbance at 270 nanometers. That is the Rabi modes of the oscillation of this kind of coherence. And the infrared radiation is important, but also the ultraviolet radiation is important for certain kind of lives. Form of life, because if we shield the ultraviolet component of radiation of the sun, it's a very, very problem. I could say many things, but I stop here.